If you've ever felt like someone was studying your pain the way a scientist studies a lab rat, you weren't imagining it. There are people who don't just hurt you, they collect your suffering like trophies. Friedrich Nietzsche identified these individuals as existing beyond good and evil over 150 years ago, and his discovery reveals why the person who destroyed you smiled when you cried, why they seemed energized by your breakdown, and why every attempt to heal the relationship only gave them more ammunition. By the end of this video, you'll understand why conventional therapy advice backfires catastrophically with these individuals, and how Nietzsche's forbidden insights give you the philosophical weapons to see through their mask of sanity and protect your soul. Maybe you're dealing with someone who doesn't just manipulate, they seem to enjoy watching you suffer. Perhaps you've noticed that your pain actually energizes them, like when you're crying and they get this subtle smile, or when you're explaining how their words hurt you and they lean in with fascination rather than remorse. Maybe they escalate conflicts deliberately. You try to have a calm conversation about their behavior, and somehow you end up screaming while they remain eerily composed, almost satisfied. Or maybe you've experienced their surgical precision in finding your deepest wounds. They remember that story you told them about your childhood insecurity, and months later, during an argument, they weaponize it with a laser-like accuracy. They don't just insult you, they craft their cruelty to hit exactly where you're most vulnerable. You might be asking yourself, am I going crazy, or is this person actually dangerous? When you tell friends about what happened, they say things like, that doesn't sound so bad, or maybe they were just having a bad day. But you know something is fundamentally different about this person. You feel hunted, not just hurt. This isn't just your experience, and you're not overreacting. What you're encountering isn't ordinary narcissism. It's something far more sinister. Conventional psychology often treats all narcissists the same way, focusing on lack of empathy and grandiosity. Therapists say things like set boundaries or use grey rock method, but these techniques fail catastrophically with malignant narcissists because they miss the crucial element. These people don't just ignore your boundaries, they see them as challenges to demolish. Here's what's really happening. You're dealing with someone who experiences your suffering as a form of entertainment. When you set a boundary, they don't just cross it. They study how crossing it affects you, then design increasingly sophisticated ways to violate your sense of safety and sanity. But what if I told you that Friedrich Nietzsche identified this exact type of person over a century ago? His insights don't just help you understand why some people seem genuinely evil. They give you the philosophical framework to protect your sanity and your safety when conventional therapy advice leaves you more vulnerable than before. But what made him revolutionary wasn't just his critique of morality, it was his unflinching analysis of what he called the will to power and how some individuals exist beyond good and evil. Nietzsche wasn't being edgy or nihilistic. He was making a clinical observation about human psychology that wouldn't be formally recognized until the development of the psychopathy checklist over a century later. Here's what's crucial. Nietzsche wasn't describing sociopaths who simply lack conscience. He was identifying people who possess what we might call dark empathy. They understand your emotions perfectly, but instead of connecting with your pain, they orchestrate it. They know exactly what hurts you, and that knowledge becomes their weapon of choice. Today, we call these individuals malignant narcissists. But Nietzsche's approach goes deeper than contemporary psychology because he understood that you can't treat someone who operates beyond good and evil with the same tools you'd use for ordinary psychological dysfunction. These aren't people who need better communication skills or emotional regulation. They're people who have consciously chosen cruelty as their path to power. Nietzsche's first revolutionary insight was the concept of will to power. the fundamental drive that motivates all human behavior. But here's what's crucial. Most people express their will to power through creation, achievement, or positive influence. Malignant narcissists express it through domination and destruction. Think of it like this. Imagine two people who both want to feel powerful. The healthy person might build a business, create art, help others grow, or master a skill. They derive their sense of power from adding value to the world. The malignant narcissist achieves that same feeling of power by tearing others down, by making you feel small, confused, and dependent on them. They derive power from subtraction, not addition. Wait, I know this might sound extreme, but this is exactly what Nietzsche observed. He saw that for these individuals, your suffering isn't a side effect of their behavior. It's the main product. They don't just want to win. They want you to lose spectacularly, and they want to watch it happen. Here's a micro-specific example. A regular narcissist might interrupt you during a conversation because they want attention. A malignant narcissist will wait until you're sharing something deeply personal. Maybe you're telling them about losing a parent or struggling with depression. Then interrupt with a dismissive comment like, "Oh, that reminds me of something much worse that happened to me," specifically designed to make you feel foolish for opening. They study your vulnerabilities not to connect with you, but to weaponize them later. Another example, when you accomplish something you're proud of, a promotion, finishing a project, or even just having a good day, notice their reaction. A healthy person celebrates with you. A regular narcissist might make it about themselves. But a malignant narcissist will find a way to poison your joy. They'll point out flaws in your achievement, remind you of past failures, or create a crisis that forces you to focus on them instead of celebrating your success. This is their will to power in action. They gain strength by weakening you. They feel important by making you feel insignificant. They experience joy by stealing yours. Nietzsche's second crucial insight was his analysis of master-slave morality. He identified that some people operate with completely inverted moral systems where traditional virtues become weaknesses to exploit. This next part explains the most disturbing aspect of malignant narcissism. Take a deep breath, because understanding this will change everything about how you interpret their behavior. Imagine you're playing a game, but your opponent has a secret rulebook. While you're trying to play fair, show kindness, and build connection, they're following completely different rules where your kindness is stupidity to exploit. Your trust is weakness to crush. Your forgiveness is permission to hurt you again. And your love is ammunition to use against you. This isn't just selfishness, it's a complete inversion of moral reality. Where you see a relationship, they see a conquest. Where you see mutual respect, they see a power dynamic to dominate. Where you see love, they see control. Where you see vulnerability as intimacy, they see target practice. In Nietzsche's framework, malignant narcissists embody what he called master morality, taken to its darkest extreme. They genuinely believe that their ability to manipulate and control others proves their superiority. Your pain validates their power. Your confusion confirms their intelligence. Your trauma becomes their trophy. Here's how this plays out practically. You apologize when you've done nothing wrong because they've convinced you that your emotional reactions are the real problem. You find yourself walking on eggshells, constantly monitoring your words and behavior to avoid triggering their anger. You start to believe that your needs are unreasonable, your boundaries are selfish, and your feelings are too sensitive. They've successfully inverted the moral reality, where your attempts to be good become evidence of your weakness, and their cruelty becomes proof of their strength. In their twisted worldview, you deserve what they're doing to you because you're foolish enough to let them do it. This is why advice like, "just communicate better," or show them more love, backfires catastrophically. You're trying to apply normal moral reasoning to someone who operates with an inverted moral system. Your increased vulnerability becomes their increased opportunity. Nietzsche wrote, "When you gaze into the abyss gazes also into you." This wasn't just poetic language. It was a warning about what happens when you're exposed to genuine evil. Now, I know this has been a lot to take in. Nietzsche's insights can feel overwhelming at first because they're so much deeper than what we usually hear about narcissism. But this depth is exactly what's going to set you free. Are you ready to learn how? Think of your psyche as a mirror. Normally, when you interact with people, you see reflections of shared humanity, empathy, kindness, even ordinary selfishness that you can understand and relate to. But when you're dealing with a malignant narcissist, it's like looking into a funhouse mirror that distorts everything you thought you knew about human nature. They don't just hurt you, they make you question reality itself. You'll find yourself thinking, did that conversation really happen the way I remember it? Or maybe I am too sensitive? Or am I the crazy one here? This isn't accidental confusion. It's deliberately engineered psychological warfare. They don't just lie. They create alternative realities where your memories, your perceptions, and your sanity become suspect. They'll deny saying things you clearly remember them saying. They'll claim you did things you never did. They'll rewrite the history of your relationship in real time, making you feel like you're losing your grip on reality. This is why victims often say things like, "I don't even recognize myself anymore," or "I feel like I'm going crazy," or "I used to be so confident, but now I second guess everything." This isn't weakness. This is the natural result of sustained psychological manipulation by someone who understands exactly how to fracture your sense of reality. Nietzsche understood that exposure to this level of psychological manipulation doesn't just cause emotional damage, it causes existential damage. It makes you question not just whether you're loved, but whether love itself is real. Not just whether you're safe, but whether safety is possible. Not just whether you matter, but whether anything matters at all. The abyss gazes back by making you question everything you once took for granted about human decency, trustworthiness, and connection. They succeed in making you see the world through their eyes, a place where everyone is either predator or prey, where kindness is weakness, and where trust is stupidity. Nietzsche's concept of eternal recurrence reveals why malignant narcissists seem to trap you in cycles of hope and despair. They don't just hurt you once, they create patterns designed to make you relive the same psychological death over and over. This might be hard to hear, but it's crucial for your freedom. They've studied you well enough to know exactly how much pain you can absorb before you break, and exactly how much hope you need to stay invested in the relationship. Imagine being trapped in a psychological maze where every path leads back to the same place. Confusion, self-doubt, and desperate attempts to win love from someone incapable of giving it. This is an accident. It's architecture. They've designed your relationship to be a labyrinth where you can wander forever without ever finding the exit. Here's how the cycle works. They'll give you just enough hope to keep you invested. A moment of kindness, an apology that seems genuine, a glimpse of the person you fell in love with. Then they'll systematically destroy that hope in ways that make you blame yourself. You think, if only I hadn't brought up that issue, or if only I had been more understanding, or if only I could love them better. They'll create crises that only they can solve, then present themselves as your savior. Your car breaks down, and mysteriously, they have the perfect solution. You're struggling financially, and they offer help that comes with invisible strings attached. You're isolated from friends and family, and they become your only source of connection and validation. Then comes the destruction phase. They'll break you down emotionally, make you question everything about yourself, and convince you that you're lucky to have them because no one else would tolerate your flaws. Just when you're about to leave, they'll love bomb you back to dependency with promises of change, declarations of love, and temporary return to the idealization phase. This is what Nietzsche meant by eternal recurrence in its most toxic form. You're forced to live the same psychological death repeatedly, each time believing this time will be different, each time discovering it's exactly the same pattern with slight variations. The most insidious part is that they convince you that your suffering is necessary for growth, that the relationship's intensity proves its authenticity, and that if you just love them enough or understand them better, you can break the cycle. But the cycle isn't broken by your increased effort, it's powered by it. So, how do you apply Nietzsche's insights to protect yourself from malignant narcissists? Here are micro-specific practices based on his philosophy. Step 1. The reality check practice. Based on Nietzsche's emphasis on truth over comfort. When you're confused about someone's behavior, ask yourself, if I describe this person's actions to someone who doesn't know them, would that person be concerned for my safety? If yes, trust that instinct over your desire to see the best in people. Tomorrow, write down 3 specific things this person did that made you feel confused or hurt. Read it as if a friend wrote it about their relationship. What would you tell that friend? If you find yourself making excuses for behavior you wouldn't tolerate from a stranger, you're dealing with deliberately engineered confusion. Step 2. The energy audit. Nietzsche's will to power analysis. Examine who benefits from your confusion and emotional distress. Healthy people are disturbed when you're upset and actively try to resolve the issue. Malignant narcissists are energized by your distress and find ways to maintain it. Next time you're upset about their behavior, watch their face and body language carefully. Do they seem genuinely concerned and eager to fix the problem? Or do they seem stimulated and engaged by your emotional state? Do they ask questions designed to understand and help, or questions designed to poke and prod your wounds? Healthy people try to comfort you. Malignant narcissists study your pain. Step 3. The moral inversion detection. Based on master-slave morality. Notice if your virtues consistently become weapons against you. If your kindness is called weakness, your boundaries are called selfish, your needs are called unreasonable, and your emotional reactions are called crazy, you're dealing with inverted morality. This week, express one reasonable need clearly. Something simple like, I need you to call if you're going to be more than 30 minutes late, or I need you to not interrupt me when I'm speaking. If they respond with anger, manipulation, or making you feel guilty for having basic needs, document that reaction. Healthy people might negotiate or explain their limitations, but they don't attack you for having needs. Step 4. The pattern recognition practice. Eternal recurrence awareness. Document the cycles. If you're constantly having the same fight, experiencing the same confusion, going through the same hope-despair-hope pattern, you're in an eternal recurrence loop. Keep a simple daily note for 2 weeks. How did I feel about this relationship today? And what specific interaction triggered this feeling? If you see the same emotional roller coaster repeated, idealization, devaluation, discard, hoover, that's your pattern. The specific triggers might vary, but the emotional journey remains identical. Step 5. The trauma bond break. Recognize when intensity is being confused with intimacy. Malignant narcissists create artificial intensity through crisis, drama, and emotional extremes that feel like deep connection, but are actually trauma responses. Ask yourself, do I feel calm and peaceful in this person's presence, or do I feel constantly activated? And real love creates a sense of safety and peace, even during disagreements. If you feel addicted to the relationship's intensity, If calm interactions feel boring compared to the drama, you're experiencing trauma bonding, not love. The key is what Nietzsche called amor fati, love of fate, meaning acceptance of truth, even when it's painful. Don't try to fix someone who operates beyond good and evil. Don't try to love someone back to sanity who derives pleasure from your pain. Just protect yourself with the clarity that philosophy provides. Start today by choosing one of these practices and implementing it immediately. This week, begin documenting patterns instead of trying to fix them. Over the next month, build a support system of people who can reflect reality back to you when you're being gaslit into confusion. So what did Nietzsche teach us about malignant narcissists? 3 profound insights that change everything. First, some people genuinely operate beyond good and evil. They don't just lack empathy, they've created inverted moral systems where your suffering becomes their pleasure and your virtues become their weapons. They're not broken people who need healing. They're people who have consciously chosen cruelty as their path to power. Second, they express their will to power through destruction rather than creation, making your pain the source of their sense of superiority. This means your attempts to heal the relationship actually feed their sense of dominance. Your forgiveness doesn't inspire their growth, it confirms their power over you. And most importantly, exposure to this level of psychological manipulation doesn't just hurt you, it makes you question reality itself, which is exactly their intention. The confusion you feel isn't a bug in their system, it's a feature. They want you disoriented, self-doubting, and dependent on them for your sense of reality. This is why Nietzsche's approach succeeds where conventional psychology often falls short. While traditional therapy focuses on communication skills and boundary setting, Nietzsche's philosophy arms you with the understanding that you're not dealing with someone who plays by the same moral rules. You're dealing with someone who sees your attempt to play fair as weakness to exploit, your attempt to communicate as ammunition to gather, and your attempt to love as opportunity to control. When you apply Nietzsche's insights to malignant narcissism, you don't just learn to set boundaries, you learn to recognize when you're dealing with someone who exists outside the normal human social contract. You move from confused victim trying to fix an unfixable situation to philosophically informed person who can see clearly and protect themselves accordingly. The transformation isn't just psychological, it's existential. You stop asking, "How can I make this work?" and start asking, "Should this work?" You stop wondering what's wrong with you and start recognizing what's wrong with them. You stop trying to earn love from someone incapable of giving it and start protecting yourself from someone designed to take it away. If Nietzsche's insights into the nature of human evil resonated with you, subscribe and hit the notification bell to join our community of philosophical healers who understand that some truths are too dangerous for conventional therapy to address. We explore the intersection of ancient wisdom and modern psychology because sometimes the philosophers saw what psychologists missed. Tell me in the comments, which of Nietzsche's insights hit you the hardest? The inverted morality, where your virtues become their weapons, the will to power through destruction rather than creation, or the eternal recurrence of psychological cycles designed to trap you? And what aspect of recognizing genuine evil would you like me to explore next? Remember, philosophy doesn't just help you understand human nature, it gives you the tools to protect yourself from those who exist beyond the boundaries of normal human decency. Your clarity is your greatest weapon against those who profit from your confusion. Stay strong, stay wise, and never apologize for seeing the truth clearly, even when others call you paranoid for recognizing danger.